right now, very excited to welcome on to the BetQL guest line and start by wishing him a happy birthday. Mr. Joe Theismann joins us. What's up, Joe? How are you, man?
Thank you, JP. I appreciate that very, very much. Great to join you on the first Monday of the season. And I hate to say it, but things didn't look a whole lot different.
So what is this, the 50th birthday, Joe?
Actually, it's 51. Thank you. So you were close.
But thank you for making time for us on your birthday. I'm sure there are some golf courses out there calling your name.
I'm like BMitch. There's always a tee time waiting for us somewhere.
I love it. You said something interesting there, and I tend to agree with you, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that what we saw yesterday didn't look all that different from what we've seen the last couple seasons. What stood out to you in the 37-20 loss to Tampa?
Well, I think big plays by Tampa's offense, getting behind our guys was an issue and has been, and it will be. And this year to me is a little bit different. I think what Dan and Adam are trying to do is you're building a foundation here. I anticipated communication issues because you basically have started half of your football team, whether it's part of the offense, part of the defense, that hadn't been there. And it takes time to develop a cohesiveness, and it takes time to develop a communication, especially when you're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that Mike Evans is just a beast to deal with anyway. The first touchdown catch he makes is like, I don't care who was covering him. It didn't matter. But, the people seem to get by our secondary a little too frequently for me as far as the defense goes. I thought the line, really put a lot of pressure on Baker at times, just couldn't quite grab him and get him down. He made some really good plays. You could see the difference in somebody being comfortable in a pocket and in Jayden's case, not comfortable yet in a pocket. I mean, you can see the distinctive difference between experience and youth.
Do you notice, is it going to be a situation where, like you said just now, they're trying to build a foundation? And I understand that, and I they have to figure out this thing, and they're looking at it for the long haul. But there are a lot of fans who just see when anything new come in, they automatically expect it to just be there, be finished. What would you tell the people like that where the foundation is trying to be built, but they want you to win yesterday?
It's human nature. It really is. It's just human nature, But Jayden was the first pick. Everybody knew he had to be the first pick. He's a very talented young man. We got a tiny, tiny little sample of his athleticism and his abilities in preseason. And you and I have talked about this. Do not take anything out of preseason. And now there is no preseason. All preseason is right now is an evaluation process for coaches to figure out how to fill out a 53-man roster. The three of us could sit down and write in 45 players that would make this Commanders football team. Of course, this year's a little different because a lot of guys came in. But we could, all you're looking for is 5 or 6 spots.
Yeah.
And then your practice squad. Because that's preseason has become worthless other than for that particular purpose. I think that, I hate to say it, but this is going to require patience and time, and it's something that we haven't seen it here. Yeah. I mean, since I got hurt, just as an example, since I got hurt in '85, I believe there are 43 different starting quarterbacks in Washington over that period of time.
That's crazy.
In the last 20 years, there's we've seen coaches come and go. We've seen philosophies change. We've seen players change. But unless you have stability at that position, you really don't stand a chance to enjoy any degree of success. And I think that's the frustrating part for me as a fan and all of our fans. And I think Jayden is going to be a wonderful foundation. He has the athleticism. Now we have to watch him grow into playing the position. His footwork, he was rushed yesterday. This is the first time, the difference in preseason for a series and the difference in a 60-minute football game are night and day.
Yep.
the speed of the game, the pressure you're going to be under, the awkwardness that you have to be able to make plays, trying to get the ball out of your hands. And I will tell you this, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jayden Daniels, when you drop back against these defenses, you have no idea what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time to figure out who's supposed to be where. You can sit and study all the film you want, but then coaches are going to make adjustments to you. If you escape to the left, what they're going to do is they're going to pressure you from the right side, and they're going to hold that right defensive end until you go to him. I mean, it's all the little. Now we're starting to get into the little nuances of the game. But foundationally, I think it was important that Jayden had a chance to see himself on film and be able to evaluate his reads, his delivery, his footwork. And it can't be Cliff and the coaching staff doing it. He's got to be honest with himself and say, okay, these are the areas where I need to improve. This is what I saw. I used to sit in meetings with quarterbacks at the park. I'd sit down with different guys that have been there, young guys. And I'd say to them, we'd be studying film. I said, what did you see? And then my next comment to them would be very simple. Don't tell me what you think you want me to hear. Tell me why you did this, so that we can build on it. And that's the thing that you'll sit down with Jayden and say, okay, why did you go here? Obviously everybody's going to miss deep throws. I mean, I'd love to see him hit Terry with that one. It would have, I think, been a real shot in the arm for him and for the team. But hey, everybody misses him.
Yep.
The worst performance yesterday was by far Bryce Young.
Sure.
By far.
In the second year.
Carolina.
Too.
I mean, it was just, and of course, you can't take 3 years off and expect to play the Dallas Cowboys if you're Deshaun Watson. Yeah. And we saw what Russ can do. That's why I'm just, people asked me about Jayden in the beginning of the year, guys. And I said very simply, I want him to start 17 football games at least. I want to see him start 17 football games. That way he'll be able to accumulate continuing knowledge to get better and better and better at his trade. Deshaun Watson's played 12 games in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
With Jayden,
it's rust. Mitch, you know what it's like. If you got hurt and missed 3 weeks, how did you feel? Imagine missing basically 3 years.
Yeah, you're starting over. But let me ask you this question. Like you said, Jayden should be doing that. I look at it this way. I think the other players also, because we have a lot of players who've heard a lot of good talk about themselves, and and you believe what you hear. But I think it's time for players to be truthful to themselves and look at what they're not doing right and improve it. Like, this is not college. This is not high school, not Little League. This is the pros. No. This is your profession.
You're not on scholarship, right, Mitch? You're not on scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
Well, being on scholarship nowadays, you make more money than you make playing pros.
Especially as a rookie.
Time. But I agree with you. I think it's, you have to be accountable to yourself, number one. And then you have to be accountable to your teammates. Every guy in that locker room today, I would say every guy in that locker room has to look at that film and say, how can I get better at what I do? Yeah. How can I get better? I don't need a coach telling me that I need to do this. He can guide me. He can give me guidance. He can share wisdom with me, but I'm the one that has to implement it. I'm the one that has to stay late. I'm the one that has to work harder. If we have a chance to be what we want to be and what our fans want us to be as a football team, then it's got to be individual accountability.
Yeah.
Be accountable to that guy in that locker next to you. I think that's so vitally important.
I'm with you.
You're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Talking with Joe Theismann here on the BetQL guest line. Joe T, the last great quarterback in Washington, and it's been some time in between. Happy birthday to Joe Theismann today. I appreciate you making time for us on your birthday.
You're welcome.
What did you like from Jayden yesterday?
I thought there were times that he made some good throws. I thought he showed a degree of composure at times in the pocket with a lot of things going on around him. I mean, he felt pressure, but he didn't see it. Now, I'll explain the difference.
Yeah.
You're going to feel pressure. You're going to move around. I thought he protected the ball pretty well in the pocket. It was sort of hard to evaluate because he was the leading rusher by, 40 yards?
By a pretty wide margin, yeah.
But I mean, you're not going to make a living in this business, and you're not going to survive if you're going to be the leading rusher. I don't care whether you're Anthony Richardson or Josh Allen or anybody. It's not going to work out that way. You play the position to throw the football. I thought there was a foundation to build on where he got the ball out of his hands. When he knew what he wanted to do with the football, we could see what it looked like. Now it's a question of building on that. Know what you want to do with the football. The Giant defense, they're going to come at you. Now he has a real sense for the speed of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden it ain't preseason. And now the pressure's coming from everywhere. And it's not going to be the first series and I go sit down. It's not going to be 2 series and I go sit down. It's going to be 2 series, 3 series. And I've said this so many times, is I want to see how people handle adversity.
Yeah.
When everybody's telling you you're wonderful, you're terrific, everything, and things are going well and you're getting great blocking and all that stuff, that's fine. All well and good. But it doesn't happen on a consistent basis in our business. It's how do you respond to bad things? It's like, Mitch, we're all about golf. Okay. We love golf.
Yep.
It isn't the good shots. It's how do you manage the bad shots? You ever watch the pros? They're in the woods and all of a sudden they're on the green.
Uh-huh.
How do you handle the bad shots? How do you handle the bad things? And that's where you learn to grow in this business.
See, Joe, I show JP that every time we play. If I hit one in the trees, I end up getting the par. He goes, "Man, you make me sick with that."
Right, because I am a weak-minded blogger, and when I hit it in the trees, I just mentally quit on the hole.
But there are analogies. I think, managing. You're going to have bad situations. You're going to make mistakes. And listen, you those guys on the other side of the ball are mighty darn good. And so like I said, when you're a rookie in this league, at our position, at the quarterback position, the volume of learning is incredible. But you have to improve every day, every week.
Yep.
That's where hope can be created, and that's what I say to the fans. Unfortunately, we say, hey, let's give it some time, but we really have to, because the team has been basically revamped, and we have a very young, talented individual at the quarterback position who I think, having spent a little bit of time, I think he's mentally tough enough to be able to handle what is called quarterbacking at the professional level.
It's funny you say that, Joe, because what stood out to me most about Daniels yesterday, and I don't think him rushing the ball 16 times is a recipe for long-term success, right? You don't want to take his running ability away, but ideally you keep that 8, maybe 10 carries, something like that, right? But what he showed, I thought, and I think this goes along with what you're saying about his mental toughness, he showed that he is a dog competitor. And the only thing that could get going was his legs, and damn it, he's trying to run through daylight.
Now he has to temper that movement with his legs to be able to buy time to get receivers the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
So you move to create opportunities. You don't move just to take off and run. And I think he's got to work on his sliding a little bit. I kept watching him run, and he sort of would dive forward. I'm thinking, no, one of these guys is going to come at you and hit you, and he's going to get a 15-yard penalty, and you're going to get a trip to the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, he took the one shot from Bryce Hall, right? That was the helmet to helmet.
Yeah.
They got the penalty. Still, you'd like to see fewer of those, obviously.
Yeah, well, again, is part of the learning process to be able to I say this to every young quarterback: your number one job is to keep yourself available to play in practice so you can get better.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I use Deshaun Watson as an example. He missed he missed time in training camp this year because of a shoulder issue. And 6 games one year, 6 games another year, no games, when you left Houston. Now, he's got to work his rear end off to try and find it.
Yes.
And when you got $265 million in the bank, how hard are you going to work hard to find it? Plus you're 4 years, you're basically 4 years older.
Right.
Yep.
And 4 years removed from playing at a top level.
Exactly.
Joe,
Yeah.
I don't know if anything stood out to you from elsewhere around the league. But looking ahead now, we've got the Giants coming to town. And unfortunately, the Giants always seem to deliver their best results against Washington. But
they didn't look good either.
What's that?
They did not look good either.
No. And you look at this game, the Giants have some serious dogs on their D-line, but I think from a talent standpoint, this is a far better matchup for Washington than Tampa was. What do you want to see against New York at home, Jayden Daniels' home debut, what should be a packed house? Like, what do you think that should look like?
From Jayden, basically, I want to see him get the ball out of his hands and be decisive with where he wants to go with the football. I don't want to necessarily see him run as much. And if he does move, which is different than running, find somebody to get the ball to. And this is where we talk about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. When I had the opportunity to play with the great Art Monk, people would say, "Oh, wow, you could always find Art." No, Art found me. I would scramble around, but it seemed like Art was always the guy I could find, just like Patrick always finds Travis. You got to let the receivers know, if I'm moving, if I'm on the right side, move to me, move back to me, give me a place to put the ball. Don't let somebody plaster on you, but work your rear end off to give me a place to get it out of my hands. We're working together in this thing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him. Obviously, I don't want him to carry the ball 16 times in a game. I mean, it's Daniel Jones does it a lot. I mean, we could have a rushing contest in this one between the quarterbacks, the way things have gone, which you don't want. And I'd like to not see people run by us and have people, open behind us.
For sure.
If people are going to score, make them work.
Yeah.
Make them work their ever loving rear ends off. If they're let's make them work. If they're going to get to pay dirt, let's make sure it takes them a long time and you don't get these, big bombs, which, historically one of our big problems is being able to score points.
Yeah.
We put up what, 20 yesterday?
Yeah.
But really the last couple of touchdowns, the game was sort of out of hand.
Yeah, it was 37-13 with 5 minutes left.
Right. But I think that, and I know one thing: the guys didn't quit, and that's a start for me. They didn't throw in the towel and say, "Oh, we're getting our rear ends kicked. We'll line up and get ready for the Giants." No, they kept working their tail off, and that's a credit to Dan and his staff. And to me, again, like it's this football team different than we've had before. This one has a lot of change going on in it, and it's going to take some time to be able to adapt to the changes and the communications that are necessary to be successful.
Yeah.
Joe, we really appreciate
they
you
don't
giving
happen
us,
overnight.
giving us time on your birthday, man. I hope you enjoy the day and get to celebrate. And maybe next week, if we are able to talk, we're having a different conversation.
I hope so too. If you reach out, let me know. I'd love to visit with you guys. Always love visiting with you. Love listening to you. Mitch and I have known each other 100 years. JP, you and I not quite as long.
We're getting there though. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
Seriously, appreciate it, man.
Hey, I just want to be around for the next 10 or 20.
All right, got you.
Me and you both. Thank you, Joe. Happy birthday,
All right,
man.
Joe, take care, buddy.
Guys.